In the morning, our plan was to get to the permit office as early as possible and slack pack the 11 miles back to East Glacier to give us more options for our permitted nights. Unfortunately, when we got to the permit office, there was no realistic itineraries left to get us all the way through the park. The ranger suggested we come back the next morning and we could get all the campsites we wanted, but that meant an extra 0 in East Glacier. Although it was initially frustrating, the 11-mile hike back to Looking Glass Base Camp more than made up for the delay. We ran into an entire family of bighorn sheep. We watched them for a while before they eventually moved down the side of the mountain and let us pass. The rest of the hike was breathtaking beauty-wise, but easy on the legs and lungs without our full packs. Even with smoke casting a thin veil over the mountains, the beauty of Glacier was undeniable. My excitement for the rest of the park grew while we spent our final 0 relaxing at Looking Glass. Luna and Will, the caretakers of the East Glacier Hostel, have created a wonderful setup for hikers beginning or ending their journey on the Divide. We visited with people we knew we might not see for a while, or realistically, ever again. We congratulated those who had finished and were making their way back home, and we prepared for a fantastic end to the most grueling journey I've ever taken. In the morning, Will drove a shuttle back to Two Medicine, which we'd hiked south from 2 days prior. It was time to officially really begin the final section. We are leaving Two Medicine, aka we should probably get out of the road. Our last stretch. Well, kind of, before New Mexico.
Next stop, Canada.
Next stop, Canada. Woo! We had 25 miles and 2 passes before our first campsite, the longest day on our permits. The approach to Pitamakan Pass started out gradually, before becoming an abundance of switchbacks about a mile from the top. I descended and found Josh at the lake on the other side of the pass. We ate lunch together before crossing the valley. As we started to ascend Triple Divide Pass, we ran into a large hiking group that told us there was a bear down in the valley, but we didn't see it. We are making it up our second pass of the day, our first full day in Glacier. We're going up Triple Divide Pass, and it is just breathtakingly beautiful. I understand the glacier hype, and I'm here for it. And going to contribute to it because it's that good. Triple Divide Peak, which is adjacent to Triple Divide Pass, is a hydrological apex, which means the water that flows from it flows into 3 separate oceans: the Pacific, Atlantic, and Arctic. If you concede that Hudson Bay counts as part of the Arctic Ocean. The hydrological significance seemed to amplify the beauty of the peaks around us, and I felt the peace of being deep in the backcountry. Despite knowing we were likely hiking into the dark, I was very happy to be on the top of that pass with Kid, and in no rush to move on. We made it to the top of Triple Divide Pass, and it was it is pretty freaking incredible. We're still coming down. We've got about 7.5 miles till camp tonight. It's all downhill now. Got all our climbing done for the day. 2 passes, 1 day. First day in Glacier, 25 miles. It's also our longest day. And from here on out, this is our last 20, so... Well, until New Mexico, but wow. Saw a little family of I guess they were bighorn sheep on our way up. Glacier is fully living up to the expectations. Even looking back on it now, I'm in awe that I get to do these things, that I get to pack my things up, put them on my back, and take a long walk to a place that is so indescribable, so vast, so beautiful, and so capable of making me feel so very small. That feeling of smallness is a relief for me. So often, life feels heavy and like there is just too much to do, to be, to understand. But in these moments where I am dwarfed by ancient mountains, I feel relief in the awareness of the transience of it all. I feel humbled to a point of elation, ecstatic in the understanding that nothing really matters all that much, besides, maybe, this. We began the descent and were greeted by another beautiful valley and the bugles of a young elk. So it's a young bull?
It's a young bull.
How do you know?
It's just not going all out with it, and it's cracking. It'd be a lot more if it was a mature bull.
So his voice is cracking.
His voice is cracking.
That's kind of funny. We crossed our first suspension bridge, which would be taken out in just a week or two. We found and set up camp in the dark and ate in the dark too. We were grateful for the built-in poles to hang our food. Knowing we only had 15 miles and virtually no climbs to our next campsite, we enjoyed a slow morning. We built a fire in the designated fire pit, had breakfast, and chatted with the others who were sharing our campsite. We got to camp, our first camp in Glacier, last night right as it was getting dark. And so we set up camp and then went to the food prep area. They have like a whole separate area in Glacier set up for it. Obviously, presumably because of grizzlies. And there's pet toilets at these campsites. And bear pools, which is super nice. So then we had dinner with everybody. We all got in probably within like 30 or 40 minutes of each other from first to last. And yeah, had a nice dark camp dinner and then went to bed. And this morning got woken up by moose splashing in the water next to us, which I didn't get a video of. And the bull was rubbing his antlers against the willows, and it was really cool to hear and kind of see it. It was a little blocked by vegetation, but we could see them a little bit. And then had a nice long leisurely breakfast. Got to chat with some people who are here on a weekend trip. They were really sweet. We have literally 15 miles and like 400 feet of gain today, so hoping to get like halfway through and then have some lunch, even though it's already like noon and I'm only like 4 miles in because we left at like 10:30. So really savoring this last bit of trail. And just look at that. So pretty. The rest of our hike was relatively easy and beautiful, despite being through a burn area. We spent much of the afternoon on the shores of St. Mary Lake, which was calm enough to create a glass-like reflection of the surrounding peaks. The trails in some parts of Glacier were surprisingly overgrown. I imagine the window for trail maintenance is short, and the plants are fast-growing, creating the perfect storm for plant-whipped legs. In the evening, we passed St. Mary Falls. I took advantage of a pit toilet before following the long line of falls down to a popular trailhead just off going to the Sun Road. There's a bridge that allows pedestrian passage over the falls, and it provided a perfect opportunity for a chilly fall dip. High Roller and I had found the spot on the map earlier in the day and agreed to wait for each other to encourage a good jump. He was braver than I and went off the bridge. I took the slightly more conservative approach and went off the cliff, and realized I should have planned my swim so I didn't strand myself on a cliff. Eventually, I did climb back up, and we encouraged another friend to jump as well. The hike back to camp was slightly damp, but absolutely worth it. We sat around another fire and reunited with Ollie, who had returned to East Glacier to pick up a forgotten sleeping pad. Alright, I am just leaving our second glacier campsite. We only did 15 miles yesterday, like basically just across the valley to our next pass. It was super chill. Campsite was pretty full last night. It's like one of the probably the main campsite if you're traversing the park to get. I think it's like if you don't stay at that one, you're gonna have like a 30 pretty much no matter what. All CDT hikers, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it started raining on us last night. We knew that it might be not the best weather for our last 3 days in the park, and right now it's not raining, which is nice. It didn't rain when we were packing up, but our stuff is wet. Our tent is anyway. And it's probably gonna rain good chunks of today, but it's not too cold. Hopefully it stays that way. And we are going up and over Bighorn Pass. It'd be awesome if the weather held while we were up there. I guess we'll see. I've got some bruises from yesterday. I jumped into Virginia Falls, which is super fun. And then when I was climbing back out, just like wasn't the most graceful. There was like a steep rock ledge. I didn't scout my way out very well. But jumping into Virginia Falls was super fun. Or sorry, it was St. Mary Falls. Jumping into St. Mary Falls was awesome. Very cold. Totally worth it.
even in mid-September. Highly recommend if you ever do that trail. I was hoping for another swim today, but it might be a little too cold for that, and I woke up with all my clothes still wet, so maybe not the smartest if I do that again. We'll see.
The skies were moody, but the weather did hold for a time above tree line on Bighorn Pass. The clouds blocked the top of the nearby peaks from view, but the scenery was still stunning. We watched Going to the Sun Road shrink into the valley behind us as we climbed, and I thought about all the people who may never venture past it. This isn't a supposition of superiority, because I did climb away from it, but rather an anecdote to convince you to take the time to leave the roadside attractions if you're ever lucky enough to make it to Glacier. You will be rewarded tenfold for your efforts. The descent from Bighorn was just as incredible, with glaciers and their resulting streams flowing over beautiful rock formations in every direction. We stopped for lunch at a roaring waterfall surrounded by sheer rock faces before continuing our hike to Many Glacier. I just saw 3 moose, like a cow and a bull, and I think they were maybe mating. They were making weird noises and like running around each other. And then I think a baby, and they're running like to the left of the trail, kind of down the hill, which is really cool. And now it's hailing, I think. So I'm waiting on this tree. So maybe, hopefully it'll let up a little bit, and then I'll continue on my way to our campsite. It's only 3 miles, so I don't mind waiting for a second. Looks like there's some blue skies close by, and I'd rather not get soaked, so we'll see. After waiting at the hail, I hiked on, and my moose instincts told me if I took a route to camp around a lake, I might see more. Rounding a corner, my suspicions were confirmed. I kept my distance and watched him pass from behind a tree. It started pouring shortly before I reached camp, and luckily let up enough to give us a chance to have some dinner at a picnic table. The backpackers campground held exclusively CDT hikers, and it was comforting to be surrounded by hiker trash amidst RVers and car campers. Second to last night on the CDT wouldn't be the second to last night on the CDT without hail. You know? We're hiding under a tree.
Staying dry.
Yep. Our tents are wet though. See, those people are fancy and they have an awning, but we don't pack out awnings. The rain turned to snow overnight, and we awoke to dusted peaks. I left Many Glacier for Swift Current Pass on my own and enjoyed a peaceful morning walking through the trees past quite a few day hikers. Just as the crowd started to drop off, I rounded a corner to Ollie and High Roller trying to get my attention. I realized there was a moose just next to trail. Luckily, it was walking away and eventually went off in the willows and toward the lake. Ollie and High Roller moved on, but my moose senses were tingling, and I decided to hang around for a bit, see if any more would come around. I was not disappointed. It wasn't long before I heard grunting and rustling in the bushes, and another moose came out of the trees. I stepped behind a tree for safety and alerted some wildlife photographers who sat in silence in observation with me for several minutes. I was in awe. Moose are such strange and majestic creatures, and it's such a privilege to see one in the wild. Eventually, that moose followed the one that came before it and went toward the lake, and I refocused on climbing the pass. It is our second to last morning in Glacier, the day before we hit the border, and it rained all night on us. Definitely snowed up high. You can see some snow that's sticking, at least for now, up on the mountains. We're about to go up Swift Current Pass, so we'll see what conditions are like up there. And yeah, we stayed at Many Glacier last night, which is like a full-on driving campground. They just have a site that's for permitted backcountry users, so we stayed there with lots of other CDT hikers and have had a pretty chill hike so far this morning. And then we'll have like a pass. I think there's 2 passes today, but only 18 miles. And then we stay at 50 Mountain tonight and then tag the border. Not even just tag it, we're walking right into Canada tomorrow. It's pretty surreal. Definitely has not hit me even still. And I'm gonna just stop trying to force it because, I mean, it just is what it is.
at this point, I don't think it'll feel real for a while. Maybe not until we're done with New Mexico, I don't know. Glacier's been amazing, so couldn't ask for a better end to the hike. I think finishing in Glacier is like a really solid argument for going northbound on the CDT rather than finishing in New Mexico. But I guess I'm doing that anyway, so joke's on me.
My focus on the task at hand, climbing, didn't last long, as I was distracted again by a stately bighorn sheep. He was munching on some veg and thoroughly unbothered by my stopping to take hundreds of photos. From a distance, of course. Eventually, we made it up high enough for the plants to be dusted and white. It was beautiful, but also comforting to know we could enjoy it from a place of safety, knowing winter was here, and we wouldn't be for much longer.
We made it to the top of Swift Current Pass, and it's quite white up here.
On the other side of the pass was a chalet where we enjoyed lunch at picnic tables and filled out our ArriveCan app, which we needed for legal entry into Canada the next day.
Less than 5 miles left of today, and tomorrow's the day. It does not feel real, but I'm really proud of myself and really proud of my trail family and really just not ready for this to be over at all.
The evening was peaceful and beautiful. I reflected on being near the end of the hardest thing I've ever done. I felt proud of myself for having made it through some very mentally tough times, which led to experiencing the absolute majesty that is the Continental Divide.
I am almost at the top of our last big climb, and man, is it pretty. Look at that. That's insane. Made it to the top of my last real climb. And I'm going to add some bonus climbing and go up to Sioux Lake Observation Point.
My final side quest of the CDT felt like the perfect metaphor of what you can find if you're willing to put in the effort. Diverting from the beaten path is certainly not easy, but the rewards for doing so are certainly right. At camp, I discovered rangers and reports of a grizzly mom and cub. Kid had taken a wide berth off the trail to avoid interrupting their digging for ground squirrels, but I didn't see them. We chatted with the rangers, hung our food, and prepared our final dinner on the CDT, looking forward to tomorrow's celebrations. The night before had been our coldest yet on trail, and we woke up to frozen water bottles. I took a trip to the en plein air toilet, another amazing perk of the Glacier backcountry sites. As the morning went on, we watched the rangers leave with their horses, and soon it was time for us to leave too.
So we camped at 50 Mountain last night, about 15 miles from the Canadian border, and we've hiked almost 3 miles so far this morning, so we're about 12 miles away. I already cried like 3 times at breakfast this morning, and yeah, I'm just really not ready for this trail to be over. Glacier turned it up a little bit too much for me. It's making me really sad to almost be done. It's just so beautiful out here, and I just love this lifestyle so much, and the people, the community of it. Pilgrim was leaving camp this morning and just started singing hey ho, to Canada we go, and that made me cry. So real proud of Kid on his Triple Crown. How are you feeling, buddy?
I don't know. I'm happy right now.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm trying to treat it like a town day so I can be excited for a shower and food. But honestly, right now, I don't really care about those things.
Our day was mostly flat or downhill and eventually became very overgrown.
It's a wee bit overgrown. Just one last nice goodbye from the CDT. We've got about 5 miles to the Canadian border. Woo!
We made it to Goat Haunt, which very much felt a bit like a ghost town. We had lunch and water and snacks with the group we'd covered most of the park with. The mood was celebratory and solemn at the same time.
All right, we are officially about 4 miles from the Canadian border. Any input, kid? Woo!
We continued our trek with Ollie and High Roller, hoping to run into Napoleon, who had camped past us last night since he was not hiking into Canada. I counted down the miles as we hiked along the shores of Waterton Lake and approached the border.
3 miles from the Canadian border. Just me for this one. The kid stopped to take off his belly. 2 miles.
What?
2 miles to the Canadian border.
Woo!
We're 1 mile. One final mile from the Canadian border. After 2,500 plus at this point. Just 1 mile away. Woo! Look at that. It's incredible.
The crisp fall air kept us moving, and we did eventually find Napoleon, along with everyone we'd been camping with in Glacier. We hiked in a line, guided by the same single track that we'd followed all the way from Mexico. I looked at the people in front of me and was overwhelmed with awe. Several of them would be earning their Triple Crown. All of them would be coming to the end of a grueling journey. All of them had persevered through months of intense conditions. We had hiked together, suffered together, laughed together, and I was so proud of all of us for getting here of our own volition, on our own 2 feet. And just like that, we reached the northern terminus of the Continental Divide Trail. We'd traversed over 2,700 miles along the spine of the continent by foot. We'd suffered through the heat of the New Mexican boot heel, persevered through the early season snow in the San Juans, ran from thunderstorms in the Rockies, tolerated the disorienting vastness of the Great Divide Basin, thrived in the high alpine of the Wind River Range, explored the backcountry of Yellowstone, traversed the Idaho-Montana state line, and became enthralled with the beauty of Glacier. We'd been through it all, and came out on the other side stronger and more capable because of it. We'd been on one hell of a journey, and another one was about to begin.
2016, 2019, CDP 2022. Congrats, kid. Woohoo!
Yeah! Yeah, baby! Can't have a king without a queen.
Woohoo!
Did you know that was coming? So you got it out.
Yeah.
Wow, I was not expecting that.
Oh my god. Oh shit.
Oh, I'm so happy.
You guys know?
I was in on it.
After the border, we hiked the 4 remaining miles into the town of Waterton, where my mom was waiting for us. That night, we celebrated, not just the end of the trail, but Kid and I's future together. One chapter had closed, but another was just beginning, and I know for a fact there will be many more adventures together to come. Not bad for 2 kids walking across the country who met in a motel room in Bernie, California. Twist the bottle, though. Twist the bottle.
You feel it? Yeah. And now you can.
Whoa! That went really far!
That was so cool.
That was my first time.